Hello, this is Coach Jeremy from Pneumatica Coaching Services, and today we will be looking at part 2 of the time series, which is on managing time. And I'd like for us, before we begin, to just have a small activity. I'd like for you to picture, or if you have a pen and paper at hand, I'd like for you to draw 10 500 ml cups. Have you been able to have a picture in your mind of 10 500 ml cups? And now if I give you 3 liters of soda and I ask you to distribute it among the cups, how would you distribute it? I am sure for many of us, we will distribute the soda equally among the cups, meaning that each cup gets 300 ml of soda, that each cup is given something equally. Well, now what if I tell you that the cups are your time and the soda is a task that has been given to you? How then would you distribute the task among the cups? For some of us, we would fill to the brim the first cups. That would be the first 6 cups. We would fill them to the brim, and we would be left with 4 cups that are empty at the end. For some of us, we would still go the conventional way and just fill everything 300 ml cups. Some of us, we wait until the first 4 cups have passed and then we fill the last 6 cups. And some of us, we try and fill the last 2 cups with the 300 ml of soda, with the 3 liters of soda, which is not possible. And that's why I want for us to view time. That's how I would like for us to view time. That time is like a cup. It has a limited capacity. There is only so much you can do in a day. And I'd also like for you to understand the second thing is that what? You are also limited. In yourself, you are also limited. We are not superhuman. We are not superheroes. There is only so much that we can do in a day. And because of those 2 things, those 2 key things, that time is limited and that we are limited, we must then view time and manage it well, so that the tasks that we are given, because each and every one of us has a different task depending on our position or place in life, we are then to distribute it well across the time that has been given us, the time span that has been given us, so that we can be able to get the most out of it. And so one of the key things that I would like for us to understand before we get now into the meat of all of this is that we must understand our capacity of time. That in reality there is a limit to time, and there is a limit to a time span. Now, a time span is how much time we have, how many days do we have, how many months do we have, how many years do we have. And I'd urge, especially for kids who are in high school or primary school, but especially high school, that there is now a time span for you to be able to accomplish a certain task. You have been given a time span of 4 years that you're supposed to be able to accomplish acquiring knowledge on certain materials or certain things that will enable you or will unlock doors for you to get into good university and do the course that you want or that you feel you are called to. But you see, for many of us, we try and do or compress everything, all of the task, into the last days, into the last times. And so what else is the question is, what else are we doing with all this other time? And those are the kinds of things that I would like for us to understand today in our time management. Because for a lot of us, we have dead time. What that means is that there is time that we can be using, we can be resurrecting. It can be used for us to be beneficial, but we are letting it stay. Just like the cups, we have empty cups that are just there. They're not really doing anything, they're just empty. And then we have a lot of days that are stressed over. We have a lot of time that is stressed, that is pressed with so many things, us trying to compress so many things into small capacities. And that's not how it is meant to be. And so, now let's get into our time management. Now, the first thing that I want us to do, we must treat time, and we must treat time like money. We must be able to account for time before we can plan it. We can plan for it before we can budget for it. And this is a tip for you if you're looking to see how can you better your savings or better your money management. You must first account for it. We must learn how to account for our time. When I mean account for your time, I mean, do you know what you do with your days? For a lot of us, we just know. We know, I do this with my day, I do this with my day, this is my day. But the question is, can you actually tabulate? You have 24 hours. Those are measures. You have 24 hours. Can you confidently say that I spend this much time in this, I do this much in this, I spend this much time in this? And what I'd like for you to understand is, or I'd like for you to do is, I want you to track your day. Just take a whole day, or even 2 days or 3 days, or even a whole week, and just track your time expenditure. How much time do you spend on the TV? Just write it down on a piece of paper that today I watched TV from this time to this time. Today I read from this time to this time. Today I got distracted while I was reading from this time to this time. Today I spent this much time in social media. You will be amazed at how much time you think you are spending on things, but in reality you are not. Like, I'm sure for some of us, or for many of us, you've been given a job to do, a task to do, clean the house. And as you are cleaning the house, you had your phone beep. And you went and looked, and it was a message or a DM from social media, Instagram, whatever it may be. And you start replying or start texting. Soon, you realize, hey, bana, time has passed. You finish mopping the house. But how you will say you will account for your time is, I mopped the house from 10 to 12. But in reality, you mopped the house maybe for 30 minutes. 2 hours you were spending on social media, 1.5 hours were on social media. You see, that's the trick that our mind can give us. That's the trick or the perception that it can give us, because we have interpolated or we have placed certain things in between our main big thing. And that's why I would urge you, before you take the time to do a timetable, learn to account for your time. So with a pen and paper, I would like for you just to track your days. You can also look up online for things that are called time trackers. There are some Excel sheets, I believe there are some apps that can help you track your time. This allow you to see and be able to understand, this is how I use my time. Now, once you understand how you use your time, you can then be able to understand these key things. Number one, you can be able to understand what is the best time for you to do your work. When you learn how to account or track your time, you can be able to understand that at this time I am most productive. At this time I am least productive. At this time, usually I am able to do things well. At this time, no, not so much. Because you would find a pattern in it. And like I said, our mind has the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which tells us or creates a cyclic cycle of how we do things. So because you've been doing it for so long, especially in this time of social distancing, you'd find that there is a certain trigger that is in your mind. When it gets to 2, you just sleep. You don't know why, but you just sleep. So you can be able to track how your mind is working with time. And because of that, it gives you a good way to start planning your time. The second thing you will also be able to do is to be able to measure your capacity. That is, you'll be able to understand that if I am reading, I read best from this time to this time before I am distracted. Like I have a 30-minute attention span. I have a 1-hour attention span. I have a 2-hour attention span. You will be able to start understanding some of these things and seeing how they work out and how they play in your life. You'll be able to start seeing that, hey, if I need to do this work, if it is cleaning the house, I can clean the house in 30 minutes. If it is washing the dishes, I usually spend 1 hour washing the dishes. If it is doing this or that, if there are chores, all those kinds of things, you can be able to measure them and say that, hey, it takes me 30 minutes or 40 minutes to do this. When it's maybe, whatever it may be, sleeping, it takes me 8 hours to sleep or 10 hours to sleep. Whatever it may be, you can be able to track it down. So as you write the things down, you'll be able to start tracking your time and seeing that I spend this much time doing this activity. So you can then measure the time. And then also, the tracking of your time helps you see the things that you are overlooking. Things that you have placed as great priorities in your life or in your time, and things that perhaps you may be overlooking or underdoing. By tracking your time, you are able to see and measure, and you can even do it in a pie chart. Like the way you do pie charts, and then you're able to see clearly which is the big section, which is the small section. Same thing happens when we track our time. We are able to see that 50% of my time is spent on watching TV, on PS, on talking to friends. 10% of my time is spent on reading. 40% of my time is spent on sleeping. You can be able to now account. When you start giving an account, you can see your priorities in life. You can start gauging and seeing, hiya, I thought I had given this a priority, but in reality, this is what has the highest priority. This is what has the greatest thing in my life. And once you're able to do that, you are now sensitizing your mind. You are awakening your mind for change, for transformation, so that you can start doing things. You are giving yourself insight. Knowledge is power. So you're giving yourself insight on yourself and how you do things. Because you'll be surprised how many of us don't know how we do things, how we use our time. We just use our time. And because of that, we can now start seeing and tracking and saying, hey, there needs to be some changes in some of these things. And then so once you've been able to measure or allocate or account for your time, that's like giving it, like an accountant does. You just going through your time and seeing, what do I do with all these 24 hours I have? And some of us would be surprised, perhaps even to the point of shame. And man, I spent 15 hours just watching TV? Really? I spend this so much time sleeping? Really? And so because of that, you are now able to start thinking of how to create a healthy balance. Now that's where we go on to the next thing. Once you've been able to view your time and account your time, now the next thing you're supposed to do is be able to allocate your time. Start allocating your time. Start telling your time, saying that, hey, I have this much time. This is what I need to do. And so how do we allocate our time? So first and foremost, I'd like for us we can break our activities into two major areas, I would say. Two major areas. That needs for self and needs of others. Because those are the two key things that warrant our time or that take our time. Things that we do for ourselves or we do to build ourselves, and things that are required of us from other people. Things are required, like such things can be like family time, Some things like perhaps it's doing the chores or all those kinds of things that, if it were up to you, really wouldn't do them, but you should do them just to manage peace in the house and create order and just, companionship with others. And so, in allocating for your time, I'd like for you to first do this. You've been able to track your time. Now, I'd like for you to write down a task list or a to-do list. So when you write down a task list or a to-do list, you are able to write down or rate the things that you are supposed to do, perhaps in a day, in a week, in a month. What are the consistent things you're supposed to do? Things that are good for you to have a healthy mind, a healthy body, and a healthy spirit. So you must list those things down. What do you view as the things that are important? Sleeping is important. How much sleep is healthy? Exercising is important. How much exercising is healthy? Spending time with God is important. How much do I allocate for that? Reading is important. How much do I allocate for that? Spending time with friends, socializing is important. How much time do I spend or allocate for that? Spending time with family is important. How do I allocate for that? So you see, when you're able to have such a to-do list that I'm supposed to, once you've broken it down into such segments, those are now, like, we can call those mega segments. Those are mega segments that, hey, sleeping is important. That's rest. This rest is important. Exercising or healthy body, mind is important. Building myself up is important. Working with others is important. Once you've done that, you can now go forward and now go into the details of those things. When it's rest, how much rest do I need? And I want you to be practical and honest with yourself. Don't say you need 10 hours of sleeping. It's not practical. It is not. It is actually unhealthy. It is very, very much unhealthy. Don't say that you need 5 hours of television. That's very unhealthy. No, you must allocate your time and then prioritize it. What is the most important? And that's why, like I said, you must view what time you are in, what stage you are in, because evidently it will come to a lapse. Are you right now in the stage whereby you are in school? Then what needs to be the most important thing about this time? Don't let time pass you by. Don't let yourself, just dancing, doing things that are not important, and then you find yourself, time has lapsed. Because I find that for many of us, myself included, is that we value or we look admiringly at how people spend their time, but we are not in the same space that they are in. We are not in a totally same space. Because some of you think and say, see, but so and so does this. Maybe you have an elder brother who cleared high school recently. He's on the long break of university, and you see him playing PS the whole day. And you're like, but see, my brother plays PS the whole day. I should be like him. But you are not in the same stage. You are now perhaps in Form 2, Form 3. Not in the same stage. You cannot have the same kinds of priorities with your time. You cannot. Perhaps maybe you've seen your manager or the head of something, he spends his time with golf and all those kinds of things, and then you wish, I wish I would be doing that. No. He can afford to do that. You can't afford to do that. That's why we must value and see and measure time, because there are some things we cannot afford to do. Because when we do them, we are giving empty cups, and evidently we will have a strain on ourselves when it comes to the final end. So allocate your time. To-do list, break it down. And so as you are measuring your time, you saw that, there were things or times that I am very well active, times I am not well active. So to the things that are most important, to the priorities of your life right now, with school, it is school. Priorities of your life right now is reading and understanding what you're supposed to be doing. If it is working, that's your priority for now. If it is building yourself, it's your priority for now. So allocate the best days or the best times, the peak hours of your days to that. Say that if my peak hour is from 7 to 10, allocate the most important things for that. Second thing that we also do in our allocation for time is that we must also understand and expect our time to be interrupted. And so as we expect our time to be interrupted, we must understand that there are some things that we just must do early enough in the day. That there are some important things that must just happen. So if there are important things that must just happen, like let's say if it's reading, that must always happen on a daily basis. Place it in a time where you have strategy, where you have ownership over your time. Like let's say waking up early in the morning between 5 and 7. No one will disturb you between 5 and 7. I believe. So before you let's say you're in high school, before you start hearing the errands, oh nani, go and wash the dishes, before you start hearing all of those things, you'll have been able to mitigate or do a lot of things before people are able to disrupt you. Like let's say maybe perhaps you're a mother or a dad and you're working in the house, can you be able to push some things, wake up a bit earlier before everyone wakes up in the house and do some certain things that you need to do before people start warranting your time. And so now from there you can now start being able to direct your timetable. Now once you've been able to have a to-do list, prioritize yourself and give specific tasks to key things, you can now start being able to develop a timetable. I believe that a timetable should come last. Should always come last, should be the last thing you do, not the first thing you do, but the last thing you do. Once you've accounted for your time, you've been able to see, hey, this is how I use my time, this is how I view my time. You've been able to cut off things from your time and saying that, hey, this is my best time, this is not a good time for me. And maybe the times that I am low, I can do things that don't involve a lot of things. Like in my low times or in the times when I'm not most active, then I can try and watch a movie. Then I can try and play some games, some PS. Then I can do an exercise. Then I can be able to maybe chat on social media at those times when I am at my lowest peak. But I give my best to the most important things in my season right now. And if you're in school, your season right now, it warrants for you to just read and study. That you may be the best you can be. And so, it's like I said, next time we're going to be looking at things that steal our time and how can we maximize our time and make our time profitable. But I would urge you, before you start thinking about timetables and start thinking about what I'm supposed to do, track your time. Be able to understand yourself. How much time do you use for this? How much time do you use for that? Understand that. Once you understand that, you can be able to start governing your time because you will have knowledge to use on, hey, I spend this much time on this, so I can allocate it from this time to this time. If I sleep at this time, I need to sleep for 6 hours or 8 hours. If I sleep for 6 hours and I sleep at this time, I can be able to be up by this time. So you start having a good mentality towards your time. You start able to start directing your time when you are able to be accountable for it. So I'd ask you, give an account to yourself for how can you spend or how do you spend your time, and then list down the important things that are needed of you right now in this season. If the most important thing for you right now is solidifying your base, maybe you're in school and there are topics you had not understood, and that's the most important thing you want to do right now is understand that chemistry in Form 2 you do not understand, then do that. Make that your priority as you make other things around that. And then once you've done that, you can now start allocating time on your timetable. That this is the most important thing. I will give it the most peak time. And then communicate this to other people also. Communicate it to your people you're living with in your house, people you're living with at home, that this is my time. This is how I am going to be using my time. So please, Can we respect this time? Between this time and this time, can we please respect? Don't disturb me. Let me be able to do this, to accomplish this task. If it's washing dishes, I'll wash the night dishes. Maybe I won't be able to wash the morning dishes because of this or that. That shows accountability, that shows maturity, and that will help you in using your time. So we're looking forward to the next engagement.